welcome to another edition of the Lynn Lowdown. And today we have a returning guest. I think Al has been with us numerous times. So last time we were each at our homes, the last time we spoke, and now he is back in his office. We're back in the studio. How are you doing, Al?
I'm doing very well. I'm
All
doing
right.
well. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Always a pleasure to have you on. So we're gonna get right into it. You got Beyond Walls recently received a Heritage Partnership grant. A couple weeks ago, they made the announcement. So please, just can you just tell us about this grant and what the grant will do for your organization?
Yeah, so Beyond Walls obviously is somewhat known for putting up large scale pieces of street art, and we've done work in 5 cities now, but a bulk of that artwork is here in Lynn. We started working with the Lynn public school system and others to really build a resource around that art for middle school age children, and this grant is funding for us to further enhance that as we partner with Lynn Public Schools and work with a sort of pilot program with a group of their teachers. So pretty excited for it.
Yeah.
And it's a really it's a way of reaching the youth in a sort of different perspective. We've titled it "Classroom to the Streets."
Yeah, classroom to the streets. Now, what was the process for this one? What was what was the process in receiving this grant? How applying for it? How did you find out about it? And what was the relationship with the grant, the folks that gave out the
We
grant?
well we've known about the grant for a while. We'd done a pilot program with Thurgood Marshall Middle School back in 2019, so pre-COVID. We worked with several of their teachers and their administration, and then did an actual tour of 300 students from Thurgood Marshall Middle School, walked from the school back to the Swampscott train station. We bought them all tickets, and they took it's like a 2-minute ride into downtown Lynn, and got off there and did a tour of the artwork. They'd studied up some of this artwork in the classroom setting with a lesson that we'd provided, and then they got the tour, and then there afterwards we did a full school assembly and then a scavenger hunt for some of the items that they'd seen in the art. That was sort of the catalyst for us then trying to refine that and really work with Lynn Public Schools to make a resource that really engaged the students, and for them, making sure that they understood that the artists that were brought in often reflect some of the cultural identities that the student body has. And because of that, there's an engagement that can happen where they can see themselves reflected in the art. And so that's something that we've really refined, and it's helped us curate art in a different way, but really get to know the school system and the student body and what they're experiencing, and that's been central to our desires. And this funding really allows us to do that.
Yeah, because when you look at it as far as the school system goes, not even here but throughout the nation, so many arts programs in schools have been cut due to certain budgets and stuff like that. It's kind of something that's been getting away, but there's so many talented students who have aspirations to be artists, and for this to come about and for you all to partner with them is pretty great.
Yeah, so it certainly allows that to enter in. You're right to point out that the arts have been cut; they've just been decimated, and programming around the arts has been cut. the great thing about street art is that there's no barrier of entry. There's no rules of engagement, right? There's no cost of entry. You just literally walk and take in the art. The reality, because we've brought in the artists that we've brought in, both local, regional, national and international artists, but because they match up to the demographics, the cultures that are here, often the artwork and what's behind that art and the stories behind the art matches up to the core elements of social studies, right? So history, geography, culture, and that's where we can really engage. So it's art, but it's in many ways so much more. So it either tells a story about, some of our art tells a story about Lynn's history. Some of our art tells the story of some of the cultures that are here. An Angoria piece, the piece of the woman in curlers, and he's from the DR, and the plantain leaves that are in the background there. There's a story behind that art that can be expressed through this resource and these lessons. The same with Wasfelder, who did, a piece featuring Jan Metzlinger, who was, a big reason why Lynn stayed on the map as far as being the sort of shoe capital of the U.S. With his shoe lasting machine that he made here in Lynn. That story that behind that piece is one that really, when the students look at that and they see that piece of art that they think is cool, and then they study behind that piece of art, and it tells a story about Lynn, or it tells a story about where their family's from, they're then really equipped for further lessons, and also equipped to, quite frankly, give their families an art tour.
Definitely. And Beyond Walls, that's been kind of busy during COVID, during the pandemic. I know there were artists out and about doing some murals around for a little while during COVID time. How happy were you that you were able to just bring in some artists in the city to do some murals in a safe manner during a time where the city was pretty much shut down?
Yeah, it was interesting. We started the year last year like everyone else, right, with plans for what you were going to get done during the year and what you were focused on, and that all changed in March. So we had a pivot. We certainly had some funders that were willing to give us funding to basically just not even keep the lights on, but just go to the bare minimum on staffing, not do any projects, and just hopefully survive. But we never wanted to do that. The reality was, we felt like if we went quiet during that time of real need, we weren't really serving our mission. So our mission is to activate space to strengthen communities. If you think about what we've done in the past, that traditionally has meant bring as big of a group of people, as diverse of a group of people together to experience something, which is the worst thing you could possibly do during a pandemic. But that because we were so tied to different community groups in the city, and we're informed, we were understanding that, there was a need, right? So there were the Lynn Shelter and the YMCA and Lynn Community Health Center were playing such big roles during COVID, but they were sharing that there was a real need, My Brother's Table, real need for hand washing stations. And because you couldn't rent them, you couldn't buy them, we built them safely here in our office on Mount Vernon Street in Lynn with our Lynn Tech interns. And we put those all out on the street in Lynn, in sort of collaboration with the city, and they served the public with hand wash, the ability to wash your hands when restaurants are closed, and all of the other areas that you would traditionally be able to wash your hands, now you had that ability, and that mitigated the spread of the virus. the mask program that we did, where we hired 3 local seamstresses to make masks featuring the murals. And then we handed those out to all the kids at the YMCA, Girls Inc., Boys and Girls Club. And that was a response. The outdoor dining setups was a response. But the art, we always wanted to put up art, but that art had to be informed by the youth and the stories that they were going through. And so we collected, worked with Dr. Tutwiler and the Lynn Public School System, as well as a lot of the youth-oriented organizations here in the city, to collect stories from youth about what they were going through. And then either their artworks that they submitted went up on walls, or the body of their work informed artists that we brought in to put up the pieces of art that they put up. One is right across the street from Lynn Community TV there on Union Street, piece by Evoca One. We're now getting ready. Some of those stories were shared, were audio, were spoken word, and we've been partnered with a group called Harbor Voices from Gloucester, and we're gonna end up announcing when parties from the community can go to a venue. It's a big open air venue, but they'll be able to actually listen to those stories that the youth produce. So we're excited for that. That'll be we're going to announce that soon, but it'll probably take place number of dates in July. You'll be able to go to this venue and for free hear some of the stories that the youth shared.
Awesome. Well, Al, always a pleasure talking to you. Always great to have you on. You usually have some stuff for me, some trivia for me, but not this time. But once again, thank you for coming on and telling us all that great stuff, and continue doing the great work that you all are doing during these times.
We really appreciate everything that Lynn Community TV has done, this past year. You've really been a great resource, I think, to the public, to inform them of things that are going on in the community, areas to get tested, now areas to get vaccinated. Just the coverage has been tremendous, and for many parties, it's sort of the way that they can be informed and attend events safely is through Lynn Community TV. So thank you for all that you do.
Awesome. That is Al Wilson, founder and CEO of Beyond Walls Lynn. You guys have been watching the Lynn Lowdown. I'm your host, Mukala Kabongo. Have a great day, ladies and gentlemen.